21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
So, Brian, what are the critical elements of starting a successful business?
I would say there are three in my mind. Number one, I would say assuming there's a partnership or in a business that we need to work with people, having trust, genuine trust in the partners or staff that we work with. That's number one. Number two, I would say basic business sense, right? Like understanding profit and loss, understanding some of the protocols that we need to go through for setting up a business, for running a business. I would say that's number two. And number three, and I would say that specifically for new entrepreneur, would be perseverance, meaning there are going to be phases of this journey. There's good times, there's normal times, there's like maybe not so good times. I would say the most challenging part is always to how do we kind of keep it up when things are not super great, having that mentality. And also some optimism, really, right? To say that, okay, things are going to get better. Like if we keep doing the right thing, if we keep working on this, keep plugging away, things are going to turn better. So I would say those are the three main qualities I would say necessary for running a business.
As you're pretty famous with your healthy work-life balance, and regarding the just said, so partnership, trust, okay, let's focus into perseverance and how do we keep up with how to approach with our optimism. What would be your mindset and what is your daily routine as prerequisites for starting being optimistic and having a higher level of awareness of importance of another meta level to see your system as a system with document flow and information flow and the context you're immersed into?
Yeah, I think part of staying optimistic, there are two things. One, we trust the work that we have put in. We trust the work that we put into not just operationally, but also the thinking that we already have behind the values that we are representing with our brand. So there are times that because the work is so overwhelming and then there doesn't seem to be light at the end of the tunnel, that would be like, okay, why am I doing this? And when I asked that question myself, okay, well, here's why. We actually spent, myself and my partner spent a great chunk of time just to frame these value propositions. So I think having that trust and all constantly reminding ourselves, that's one. And the other part is that kind of take a step back, right? Almost always like the housing market sometimes. We always say that, well, it's so expensive to get in right now. It's always expensive. But I always say that, again, I'm not an expert in real estate or economy, but from what I've seen, whatever point that you want to enter, and you say that's a high price point, if you look forward 10 years, chances are that point is not one of the higher price points. It's probably one of the lower one, if not the lowest one, right? And so same thing with our business. If we believe that the work we have put into our framing our brand, building our brand, the work that we put in every day to do the right things, the quote unquote, the right things. If we look 10 years ahead and then take a step back, if the regret would be if we stop now, right? Because it's always easy to quit, right? But then there will be a huge regret. It's almost certain that it's going to be a huge regret that when we look back 10 years, hey, we remember the one time that we had something, we worked on it so much, and then we just gave it up. And so I think that is kind of what helped me to say, okay, things are going to be better, right? Right now we have our struggles, and literally like day to day, that's why I remind myself, at some point it's going to turn somewhere. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't have to work on it every day. It doesn't mean that we don't have to self-reflect on what we have done. Is it the correct thing to do? But these are what I mean by the right things to do. We are not super high or super low. We stay humble. Doesn't matter what happened. Doesn't matter what people say. Doesn't matter. Like, it's really what we see and our own self-honest assessment, and then we just keep plucking away. So I think those are the two main things that really help us just, be able to stay optimistic. And I would personally, and I would say for both me and my partner, we need that to keep this running. Because for me, if I'm not optimistic about something, and every day I need to do it, that now becomes a grind, right? That now becomes a real grind, and it's very tough to sustain that on an ongoing basis.
Is there any specific technique for getting into awareness, the need of the optimism, for checking your state at the moment?
Yeah, I think so day to day, what happens is that usually, because we have presence across the world, right? We have great presence in Portugal. We certainly have presence in China, and I personally locate in Canada, and we also sell to the States. So you're talking about around the clock some things are happening, right? There's some activity. So I personally in Canada, I start off my morning first, check all my emails, respond to all the messages, usually from my partners, just to respond to them, whatever is either questions or discussion that is ongoing. And then I go on and say, okay, now these are the things I probably need to do today. And a lot of times is to communicate with the staff that we have hired, whether it's the photographer, the content creator, maybe the designer, product designer, or the website designer, right? I need to communicate all those things because I'm keeping my full-time job as well. So I'm kind of running both. This is basically my side hustle, but we're doing it very seriously. So I am like optimizing or trying to get every ounce of time that I can get from my downtime to contribute into this business. And so I need to be very efficient, right? If I don't do it now, I basically won't have a chance to do it until the end of the day in my time. And then I'm going to lose the entire working day, maybe from my staff, because they need guidance, right? They need guidance on what to do, maybe. And especially with startup, there's always changing direction. So that communication, if we really want the right kind of result or outcome, we really need to over communicate, right? And so that's a communication part of it. And I would say, like, for us, and I don't know if this is a fashion thing or this goes across all businesses. I think to your point about staying optimistic, to me, again, this is another reason why it's necessary. If myself do not have the energy to a positive vibe or positive energy to run my business, and then now I'm communicating with my staff, now it's very quick that I will sound cynical or like what's that word, kind of pessimistic, and negative, right? So and that's just not good for anybody, right? Because they don't, the last thing I want is that they do something with some grudge or hate or like displeasure in their mind, but instead I want them to also get excited. So for them to do that, for them to at least not be negative when they're doing the work, that for us, I need to stay positive when I communicate with them, when I explain it to them, right? So that's another reason why we need to stay optimistic. And then usually there's also another part of communication, which is with our vendors, right? With a business like ours, there are a lot of vendors involved because not everyone is like we hire them. So you have, like, say for logistics, we have our vendors. For maybe for PR, we have our vendors. So communication with them is another kind of big part of my job. And I think usually in the evening, it's in our mind, whenever we can, we always think back to like whether we're doing the right thing or not. That's the constant question that we ask. And sometimes we need to really control that, because asking that too often sometimes take away the chance of us seeing the result of something that we wanted to do, we plan to do, right? So but we do constantly ask ourselves, is it the right thing to do? Have we give it enough time yet for it to show the impact? Should we maybe now revisit? Because sometimes things theoretically sound right, they sound awesome, we do it, and then the result keep telling you that not really, and then that's when you have to pivot to something else. So I think that's kind of the daily routine. Obviously, weekend days are a bit different, right? Weekend days we can afford to put in more time into doing everything else, right? But during the weekdays, that's usually the flow. We started off wanting to build Normans. We started the brand, just some context, during the peak of the pandemic. We really incorporated back in early 2021. Now, like I said, because we both kept our corporate job and doing this like as a, let's just say, a serious side hustle. That's why it took some time before it got launched. And the origination of it was, I work in corporate America, corporate Canada. And as you know, during the pandemic, it's all Zoom, a lot of Zoom meetings. And at the time, I actually have a client-facing role. I was a management consultant back then. And I was seeing whether it's client or us as consultants, the attire, it's either you go grab a suit and then put it on and then like really dressed up working from home, which kind of sounded a bit weird, or we basically grab something that we wear when we go to bed, right? And there's no in between. In my mind, I was like, there has to be something that is better than these two options, that is more fitted for working from home. And the two key components would be, one, presentable, right? Because you're working from home. So you're still working, so you'll need to stay presentable. But the home part of it is to feel comfortable. So that's when we inspire. And then I don't really see, I mean, yes, there's some product maybe kind of by accident that is a good fit for that, but there's no a brand kind of dedicated to make that kind of product. And so we'd be like, hey, I think there's an opportunity here, because if you remember, even early during the peak of the pandemic, they were talking about the new normal, and then people already kind of looking ahead, saying, what is it going to look like when this pandemic is over? Is it going to be still working from home or whatever? And so, but we know for sure the work from home component is not going to go away. Now the question is that what is the mix? Like, is it 70-30? Is it 50-50? Is it 20-80, right? Who knows? So, but there's going to be a component that people would work from home. And so we see not just the potential during that time, right? It's not like we're selling masks, right? We see there's a need for those kind of apparel products beyond the pandemic. And so that's kind of how we started it. And then as we are building, that's when we are shaping the brand, right? Okay, fine. We build an apparel brand. There's so many of them, right? There's so many of them, especially online fashion brand. There's so many of them. How do we stand out? That's the question that we ask ourselves, right? My partner, we have been friends for a long time back in like elementary school or high school. He has always been a proponent of like sustainability, right? So it's okay, but we are not a huge company at this point. We don't own any green technology, but there's still maybe things that we can do. And then that's where, well, like maybe we can take some of the materials that is supposed to go into the wasteland. We call them end-of-line material. Now we take those to make our products. Now, naturally, it comes with some constraint because you don't get to control how many, what's the amount of incoming raw materials that you have, right? So that's constrained with that. But at least we are now not sending them to the wasteland, but instead we are actually making like what's that called, creating value with those product, right? With those raw materials. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, now how about packaging? Can we do something on the packaging? Yeah, there are like vendors that on the packaging side, it's very sustainable. So we found this company. They produce what they call water soluble material packaging, meaning the bags looks like a plastic bag, looks like a typical plastic bag, but it's not plastic. Instead, if you put I think it's over 80 degrees Celsius of water over it, if you pour it over it, it will just dissolve.
Gone.
It's gone, right? And there's no toxins and none of that, right? So okay, that's something we can do. So okay, we are able to work in a couple, I would say for us at least, fairly significant sustainability component into our brand. Okay, now how about the marketing side of it, right? How do we make our brand resonate with the people who are seeing them? And that's when, to what you mentioned earlier, the storytelling part comes into play. Most brands, and I'm nothing wrong with that, and we could have totally gone that route, which is to hire professional models, make or like ambassadors, so they're like fashion models and whatnot, and then we can do a lot of content from there. But instead we were, hey, we think, if we think of like inspirations, if we think of like us ourselves, right? Like, yes, of course, when I read something about Jeff Bezos, I get some inspirations. When I read something about Warren Buffett, I get some inspirations. But if we think of our own life, the things that we're inspired to do, we usually most of the time, we actually got it from people that we can relate to. Usually are people that are around us, usually are people that we came across that most of the time are not celebrities because they're more relatable. So we kind of trying to hone into that relatability point, which is, okay, these are folks that we may came across every day. Obviously, may not be the same person, but that kind of archetype is someone that we came across every day. And so whether it's people who are in the same kind of, under the same circumstance, or kind of admire those kind of paths, we thought that those there are inspirational stories to tell, right? We have an upcoming ambassador story that he's still in his 20s and he's already one of the top executives for Toronto's #1 fintech company, right? So now, is he a celebrity? Not really by the general sense, but is there a lot of things to learn from his story? Absolutely, right? So we
And
try
you
to
have
find
product manager and lead financial analyst.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So and we will have athletes as well. And when we say athlete, is not like may not be the top athletes, but again, think about it. Like, we have more people that are not top-notch athlete than the other side. And so if we now want to relate, we want to resonate, that's what we think would work. Now, to add to that point, is it all smooth like all we thought it would be? From we started off with that idea to now we actually have content that is exactly that. There are adjustments we need to make. We are literally still learning. Like, even last night when I was talking to my partners, there are things that we may need to adjust, right, to get the impact that we want. At the end of the day, we are a business out there trying to sell products. So there are adjustments that to be made. But to answer your question, that's kind of how we come to it, is that, okay, we these are the unique value proposition that we think we can bring to our customers. And along the way, we even found another one, right? Which is we have our products. We start to kind of have some of our customers try it. And one of our customers, he came back to me and said, "Hey, Brian, the other day I wore your product. I have the top, the bottom, both are your product. I think he's a tech sales executive. He said, I went into the office, took a few meetings with the client, I think. Then I went to the gym, worked out, and I came back to the office, did a few more meetings, did not change at all. Didn't have to change because one of the products that he had on, looks like a dress pants from the outside, but in the inside it's like a sweatpant. It feels like a sweatpant, right? So he said that to us. So now we understand, hey, we actually simplify things for our customers, because I remember the days that this is pre-pandemic. If I say that I want to hit the gym, whether it's after work or during lunchtime, I need to break. Like I dress up, right? I wear basically dress shirt and dress pants, and then I need to bring an extra bag with me to carry all my gym clothes and gym shoes, right? Now we basically, for the people that can, have that kind of job nature, they can basically go with our product without changing at all the entire time. It simplifies many things. So I think along the way, that's why I say we constantly review, we take feedback, we critical think ourselves. Hopefully, that's what we believe will lead us to success. And then but that's also what I said along the way, when it's not like crazily happening from a business standpoint, that these are the things that keep us kind of optimistic, because we trust the work and the mindset that we have.
And when you say unique value proposition, how did you do the pricing? As it was something unique. I mean, what was the reference point?
Yeah. So I think there's definitely like some more traditional market research we have done. So we went online and say, okay, these are the brand names that we kind of think somewhat, because like I said, right, like if the value prop is a bit unique, so I cannot find something that is like identical to us. However, like the end product, like for example this hoodie, right? Like okay, so I'm like, okay, these are the 4 or 5 brands that we think in terms of material or in terms of the style they are selling are similar to us. These are their price point, these are the reference point. Let's make sure that we are not overpricing ourselves or underpricing ourselves, right? I think that's one thing. And obviously we do the whole, that's more like a top-down approach. And then we also have a bottom-up, which is, okay, from the moment that we get the raw material, obtaining the raw material, all the way to shipping, like getting to the customer, what is that cost? And so when the two meet, and then that's when we find out, okay, more or less, these are the price ranges that we can accept. Now, again, these are the prices that we put out there. We have done our research. We ask them, do you think you will pay X amount of dollar for this product? We have done that part. However, I always say this, and I used to work in, and I still do, like work in a data field. What they say is not always what they do, And so, yes, they will tell you on a survey, yes, I'm going to pay $60 for this thing. I'm going to pay $70 for this thing. But we always have to cross-check it with what the data is telling us. Do we actually sold this product for $60? Or really 99% of our sales are coming only when there's a 20% discount, right? And if that's the case, and it's go on for a long, long time, not just a particular period, we probably need to adjust that, right? And vice versa, like not just down, but up, like all that. So I think, there's no, I don't think there's like a magic formula that we are using, to be quite frank. But certainly, like, we pay close attention. I think our, I won't say secret sauce. I think it's just the thing that we make sure we do is that we pay close attention to the market, but also to our own data, because our brand, it can very well be the exact same material, same hoodie, but people place different value to a brand, right? They will be like, hey, if this is coming from H&M, I'm willing to pay X amount of dollar. And if this is coming from a brand that I don't know, I'm willing to pay X amount of dollar, even if they're the exact same thing. There's brand value there. So that's why I think both are important for us to keep ourselves in check.
So you have a constant communication with the market through communication with your customers, through inspiring stories. And how did you start it? It's a big deal to communicate with the whole world, to communicate your message. So what were the first steps? So if somebody wants to start maybe not the same on the same market. I mean, how to start to communicate with customers? What was your marketing at the beginning versus what is it now?
Yeah, so we started off obviously kind of within our own circles just to raise some awareness, right? And there's already kind of like a pre-launch activity going on anyways, because we are trying to get feedback, right, as we are constructing the product, whether it's the look and feel of our products, pricing, our website. Like I have gotten like my friends, and I have fortunately have friends in different areas who I think, on top of just opinion as an audience, they can also give opinion as a professional in those areas. Like I have friends in the UI UX space, I have friends in the design or product design space, I have friends, right? So there is that already. So some awareness was raised, and then later on, as we were launching, then we'd be like, okay, hey, our brand is finally launching. Some of you may be aware of it, and then we kind of a bit of word of mouth, I would say. And then now what we do, certainly social media is huge for us. We are trying to identify influencers that we can work with. It's always easier when they already have some level of buy-in to the brand, meaning, hey, I like this brand, or like, hey, I somehow get a chance to try on your product, I like it. So then it's a lot easier for them to, because now the message coming from them, they actually believe in it, right? Like, and I'm not saying the other influencers are lying, but I'm just saying that, it's a lot easier when they have that buy-in unprompted. It's not like I'm telling them to have that buy-in. They told me that they have some level of
Congruent. They're congruent.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
So I think that part is important. We are still, I mean, I'll be honest, like we are still in a phase. We are trying different tactics with SEOs, with kind of like digital ads, with like kind of different ways of marketing. We even have like a more traditional way, like we try to see if we can get on TV shows or like radio shows, digital magazines or magazines in general, kind of more traditional media. We have that path as well, because I mean, overall, like, I think we are a fairly inclusive brand. So just because we are an online fashion brand doesn't mean that we do not cater to people who watch more traditional media, right? And so, or sorry, consume traditional media. And so for us, it's the same thing, right? And so we will explore. Who knows? Sometimes maybe it works better. Like it gives us a better ROI with traditional media, or maybe it is true that it does give us better ROI with maybe digital media. So we try all those things, and like I said, right now we are still exploring, and hopefully, we give a reasonable amount of time to now get ourselves in the rhythm, right? We will know that, okay, this really worked for our brand, so we can kind of repeat this action going forward.
And due to all those interactions, is there a danger of copycats?
Oh, that's always right. But here's the thing: the way, and I don't even look at it as copy, right? Honestly, because see, when I think of it that way, one, things get cynical quick. Okay, that's number one. And usually doesn't generate a lot of like positive, meaningful outcome from a business standpoint. So I try not to think that way, right? Not to say that I don't think they exist. Anything can happen. But the way I look at it is that, and we actually had that conversation, me and my partner. Are we confident in our value proposition? Are we confident in kind of the software of our brand, right? What they can copy is quote unquote the hardware, right? They can be like, oh, we can do storytelling as well. We can do sustainability as well. This and that. But my story is different from your story, right? The way that what we want to tell, these are the things that people cannot take away. And who's to say that we are doing it better? I always believe that competition is one of the reasons why we have growth, we have improvement, right? So if someone happened to think our proposition is a winner, and they try to do the same thing, one, that's recognition of our hard work, that our ideas, that is, maybe it's actually working now. And if they happen to do it better, now maybe we have something to learn from that as well, right? And I don't look at it as a, I try not to look at it as a zero-sum game. I try to look at it as, as we go on, how can we, like, if let's just say now there are like 8, 9, 10 brands trying to do the exact same thing. Okay, great. Now how can we grow the pie so that we can all be sad, happy with, what we're getting from the business? So again, I'm sure that some people might think that that's a very naive thinking of me, and that can be true. But like I said, I personally try to go with that direction to save myself the energy to kind of be cynical about things. And by the way, obviously we do our like copywriting, right? Like we patent our brand, like those basic stuff we do. But in terms of like people following the way that we do things, I don't think that's avoidable, and that's why I try to, find a way that like almost like a thinking path that I will not go down the rabbit hole, of being too cynical.
And do you experience yourself as a serial entrepreneur? At the beginning of our discussion, you mentioned 10 years time frame. It's very hard to predict anything. So do you even have time for thinking about exit strategy? Do you think about exit strategy, or is it something that you want to continuously work on?
I mean, I think overall the approach we have is keep an open mind. Right? Anything can come, right? I will be hard pressed to say, if somebody say, hey, Brian, we want to buy your brand for like $50 million tomorrow, and I'm not going to consider that. I'm not going to say that, right? As of right now, of course, our goal is to build up the brand the right way, build it with integrity, with hard work, with the right amount of the right kind of tactics, and just see where it goes. Like a lot of it, when I was a kid, I always think that, hey, there must be some kind of great monetary or financial incentive for somebody to do something, right? Especially in a more capitalism country or world, that's usually how people function, and that's totally fine. But if I kind of think back myself, I ask myself every day, because the fact that I do keep my full-time job and I have enough for a living, I ask myself, why am I doing this? A big part of it is really just curiosity. Like finding out, what is it going to look like? A business that is like built and run and by me and my partner, what is that going to look like? Is it going to be profitable? Is it going to be sustainable, profitable company? I want to find that out. Part of it is also to prove it out to myself that, hey, I can actually do this. It's really just that. It's not so much like, hey, I really, and I'm not saying that's wrong, by the way. I'm just saying that I personally haven't really been thinking that way. And so that's why I say I do keep an open mind. I don't know what's going to come tomorrow. I don't know what's going to come in 2 hours time. Maybe somebody call me up with something that drastically changed the way we approach the business. We have to be ready in a way, kind of be as ready as you can for those things. And so yeah, no, I to answer your question, I never really thought much about that. And right now the focus is really to build a brand to the best that we can. To find us, to check out our product, if you are located in North America, you can go to normansapparel.com. It's NORMANSAPPAREL.com. You will be able to find our online store in North America. If you are in Europe, under the European countries, then you can go to Normans, NORMANSINSP.com. We essentially have two different lines. One, the one in North America, it's a bit more like work from home or like a hybrid working, a little bit more like business casual. Our line in Europe is a little bit more like urban, more like street art, and so we try to test out different market, and also they're in different locations. So check us out today.
Yeah. 21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community, elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.